Hi everyone, my name is Teacher MJ and the videos that I'm making are intended for the secondary students of KIS International School here in Vientiane, Laos. If you are not from KIS, it's okay. I hope that you can learn something from this video. Currently, we are in isolation to protect ourselves from the coronavirus infections. However, learning never stops. So before we start this video, I'd like to make sure that you have the following things with you. You have your course book, your notebook, and a pen. You can watch this video in many places, but I prefer you find a comfortable place and I suggest you wear your headphones. You can pause the video to take down notes and repeat if you need so. If you have any questions, you write them down and don't hesitate to send them to me in WhatsApp so I can address your questions. So if you are ready, I am ready too. So it's time to study geography with Teacher MJ. Hi guys. Hi, it's nice to be back after a long weekend or holidays for supposed to be the most fun time of the year here in Laos. However, because of this ongoing pandemic, I know that all of us probably have stayed home and quarantined ourselves to be safer, And as far as I have remember, there are already 19 people who were positive for this virus, and I hope that it would stay that way and that we will be recovering from this problem moving forward. And I'm hoping that this will be over soon enough, because it's really a challenge for everyone, and I hope you guys are learning something from this, and that the future we will be able to have a better way to deal with these kinds of things in this country. So we are now on our last lesson for your geography class, and we are now in Enquiry 3, which is about the earthquakes in New Zealand. Yesterday I gave you, and last week as well, I gave you some activities to at least give you a bird's eye view on what we are supposed to be learning. And today we will be going to the basics of what New Zealand is and why is it that they're getting lots of earthquake. Alright, so New Zealand, this is a country that is found in the southwestern Pacific Ocean. This is just near Australia, and this country has a dynamic environment. When you say dynamic, it has a lot of different sceneries and environment from north going to the southern part of this country. Remember that this country is in the southern hemisphere, and the southern part of New Zealand is actually near the Antarctica already. So you will see some glaciers, you will see mountains, volcanic fields, fault lines, and coastlines as well. Okay, that is why it's dynamic, because of these different landscapes and bodies of water, coastline, and many very interesting geographical features which may not be available or not seen in some other countries. And it's also here described as a land of fire and ice, mainly because of volcanoes and the glaciers it has. So these are a few photos of the places that you can see in New Zealand. This is Auckland, which is the capital city. And then we have Mount Taranaki, which is in New Plymouth in North islands of New Zealand. We also have the beautiful coastlines and beaches in here. And we have here again a tarn or a quarry lake in the southern part. So in the middle part of this screen, you will see a mountain range, which is known as the Alpines. Okay, and you will see that this has a fault line here, the reason why it is made up of very high mountains. Okay, we will talk about fault lines, plate boundaries as we go along. And you will also, on page 39 of your books, you will see other features that you can find in New Zealand to support the information that it has a very dynamic geography. Okay, so knowing that New Zealand has volcanoes and has earthquakes in them, you must understand its location, okay? New Zealand is located on top of an active plate boundary where Pacific and the Australian plates meet. Now, we talked about this when we studied the Permian period, when the Earth was once a Pangea or a large continent, and because of the movement of the tectonic plates under these land or big chunks of rocks, these plates move around to create what we have, or what continents and large land masses that we have right now. So in New Zealand, we have the Pacific plate, which is oceanic, which is under the ocean. And then we have the Australian plate, which is continental, which holds the whole country of Australia. So when these two plates meet together, that's something that could cause a hazard, okay? At the same time, it creates beautiful landscapes that we see in New Zealand. That's what I have discussed a while ago. Okay, so tectonic plates, when they are moving, there will be changes in the land, there will be movement of water, but it's not just a hazard, but also it creates beautiful landscapes that we saw here in our book. And this is a photo what I'm talking about a while ago. This is the whole country of New Zealand. This is the southern islands, and this is the northern island. Now, this area here is the Australian plate. Again, the Australian plate is a continental plate. It is usually denser, it has less density, and it is usually higher compared to an oceanic plate, which is the Pacific plate in here. Okay, an oceanic plate is usually denser, which is heavier and usually under the sea. So again, when two plates, for example, this is a plate or the continental plate, and this is a Pacific plate or the oceanic plate, when they meet together, what happens is that one will go under the other and the other will go upwards, and that would explain why a lot of these landscapes and landforms are formed. And again, when these plates meet together, there is one phenomenon that would happen, especially when plates are moving. Okay, when they have friction against each other, then there can be what we call earthquakes. Okay, plate boundaries. Again, plate boundaries is a thin zone of crushed rock separating the blocks of the Earth's crust. Now, the blocks of the Earth's crust here is talking about the plate. Okay, these are large land masses. And on the edges of these land masses are what we call plate boundaries. Okay, one plate, another plate, and they are in one place, okay? And that means that place in the middle is the plate boundary, okay? And again, earthquakes occur on plate boundaries, on places where plates meet. Now, faults on the other hand, fault line or faults, these are the breaks in the plate boundaries. Now, when they move, okay, when they move, it creates a crack on the surface of the ground, and that is the fault, okay? The crack on the surface of the ground is the fault, okay? And the place between two plates will be the plate boundary. Now, I will be discussing the three types of plate boundaries. When you go to year 9, you will be introduced with another type of plate boundary, but in our book, I will always stick to 3. Now, let's start with the first one, constructive. Okay, don't confuse yourself because the other name for constructive is divergent. Constructive plate boundaries happen when two plates are going far apart. Again, constructive boundaries or a plate boundary happens when two plates move apart from each other. You will see here on the screen that there are lines in here. So the line is where the direction of these plates move. Now, why is it called constructive? Okay, it's called constructive from the root word construct, which means to create. Okay, constructive plate boundaries create land. How is that possible, teacher? Now, constructive plate boundaries usually form underwater, and when the plate opens, okay, there will be a spew, or there will be an exit of magma. And because magma is hot and it's touching water, it starts to harden. Okay, so as this continue to open and open, volcanoes will start to form because of the spewing of magma, or the exit of the magma from the underground. So it's constructive because it's creating land. It's also called divergent because the plates are means two. It's going in two separate directions, opposite directions to be exact. Okay, constructive plate boundaries again is when plates move apart from each other, creating land and volcanoes. I hope you get that. Now, don't confuse yourself again with the other one because it's quite opposite. Destructive, and it's also called a convergent plate boundary. Okay, now a destructive plate boundary is sometimes called convergent plate margin, and it occurs when an oceanic and a continental plate move together. Okay, move together. Constructive, move away. Destructive, move together. Divergent, move away. Convergent, move together. Now here, the other one that I mentioned again is under the water. It's happening within or underwater. Well, this one is where a continental plate, for example, the Australian plate, and then we have the oceanic plate, for example, the Pacific plate, move towards each other. Now it's called destructive because when the oceanic plate goes under the continental plate, it destroys or destructs mass of land. While the constructive plate boundary is creating land, destructive plate boundary is destroying land. You can see here on this very simple diagram that the oceanic plate goes under a continental plate, and then when it goes under the other plate, it will go towards the inner part of the earth, which is the mantle or the magma already. So because of the high temperature, the land gets destroyed and is converted back into magma. Okay, oceanic plate is forced under the lighter or the less dense continental plate, and when this happens, it's like, if I don't know how to say it, but if this is a continental and this is the oceanic plate, it goes under. It creates like a sandwich, whatever. Okay, like that. And then when the friction is too strong, it just kicks like that, causing a large displacement of water. Sometimes what we call a tsunami. Okay. Friction causes melting of the oceanic plate underground, and when again it kicks off, or if the pressure is too strong or the friction is too strong, it starts to snap, and then there you go. We have a strong earthquake. And we have one more plate boundary that is discussed by our book, and it's what we call conservative plate boundary. It is sometimes called transform plate margin. It occurs when plates slide past each other in opposite direction. So that means they are each other, but it could be into opposite direction. They're not going apart. They're not going against each other, but they are just next to each other, but in two separate directions. Or maybe they are on the same direction but on a different speed of movement. Now the other may be is still moving the same direction, but the other is moving faster and the other is moving slower. Okay, so that is a conservative plate boundary. All right, so with a question that I asked yesterday, out of these three types of plate boundaries, which one do you think is causes the strongest earthquake? So based on the several books that I've read and based on the research that I made, the most destructive, or the one that causes the strongest earthquake, will be the destructive plate boundaries, or the convergent plate margins. And take note that all of these plate boundaries cause earthquake. That's, I think, the first question that we had yesterday. What else was that? And can all of them create volcano? No, not all of them. Constructive and destructive plate boundaries create volcanoes, while conservative does not. It just causes earthquake. Okay, so earthquakes, right, which is the most important thing that we have to understand. An earthquake is the shaking of the earth or land. Okay, and it happens in the surface of the earth, which is the crust, which is the result of a sudden release of energy in the earth's lithosphere, or in the earth's crust, that creates seismic waves. Now the seismic waves will be the underground wave of shaking. Okay, it comes from one point and then it spreads outward. It's like a ripple. It's like when you drop a rock into water, it creates like waves or a ripple going to different directions. The same thing with seismic waves. Seismic waves are the shake that is created by earthquakes. Okay, and this also spreads into different locations. And earthquakes are usually caused when rock underground suddenly breaks along a fault line. Okay, so if the two and a plate boundary, we have two plates together, and on top of that we have layers of rocks, and when it breaks it creates a crack, and then you have earthquake. Okay. All right, so this is the video that I sent you yesterday. You can again look into it. You just have to press that play button on the video so you can see the significant thing that happened in New Zealand for the past couple of years. In the next video that I'm going to show you, I will be discussing about the different types of earthquakes that happened in New Zealand, specifically on page 41. Yes, we have there the three pictures of the New Zealand maps, and I'm going to be discussing each one of them and what do they mean. There are questions to consider in here, and I believe that I would need to explain this to you before I give you another activity. So thank you very much for listening. You don't have any things to do with this video. The next activity will be on the next video that I'm going to create. Alright, so I hope everything is clear now, and we'll be moving on with our next lesson in the next video. Thank you very much for listening.